Welcome back to Breakthrough Innovation, where we dig into the real stories behind the ideas, leadership, and experiments that shape the future. Today's guest has spent 2 decades at the forefront of experience design, and he's now helping one of the world's most iconic brands reimagine what connection looks like in a tech saturated, AI driven world. I'm excited to welcome Dave Altis, Global Chief Experience Design Officer for the Ford business at VML. Dave has led design across everything from digital ecosystems to brand storytelling, with clients ranging from Intel to Kellogg's to United Rentals. He's won a Cannes Lion, so he's a systems thinker, and he's a clear-eyed strategist when it comes to the role of humanity in modern customer experience. Dave, welcome to Breakthrough Innovation. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much, guys. Whoever that Dave guy is, I want to meet him. He sounds pretty cool.
I know, right? We'll
That's
send you the
great.
intro when we're done so you can use it for your bio. so, so Dave, given your experience and how vast it is in kind of this creative industry, I'm curious, what are the trends in the creative world that we're not spending enough time talking about that we should be examining more?
Oh, that's a good one. Of course, AI is everywhere. AI is the hot topic, and it has a huge impact on creatives. In my line of work, there's a lot of fear and trepidation.
Yeah.
Great story on this. My daughter is midway through her illustration curriculum up at the University of Kansas, which is what I did when I was in school. Now, keep in mind, I did that back in the day when literally I was graduating college when Photoshop 1 came out.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was a traditionalist. I learned all the traditional way of doing illustration. In fact, I came out of school doing scratchboard, for those of you that may remember what that is, and I love it. And of
Yeah.
course, the illustrator can do scratchboard so easily. But I remember a friend of mine went to a Photoshop demo at the time and came back saying, "Oh my God, you are not going to believe this tool. You can take one photo and then a photo of a moon and you can composite the moon on the photo." And I said, "That's bullshit. No way. We are not going to, that is not going to, no, I'm a purist." And so it's interesting how Photoshop was really this tool for so many years that was special for designers. It was this advanced thing that we did to hone our craft, and it continued to evolve. And then suddenly it appears on the shelves in retail, and anybody can do Photoshop.
Yeah.
So it became like this mass tool for people to use, but tool being the primary thing. And I still marvel today. I would consider myself pretty damn good in Photoshop, but every time I sit down with somebody of any age and watch them use Photoshop and to see how there's 1,000 different ways to do the same thing, it's
Yeah.
just this incredible canvas. And that's really what AI, I think, is doing for us, is it's a tool. But it's still creating a lot of fear. Going back to my daughter, I asked her the other day as she's going through learning all the traditional ways of doing illustration, I said, "What is the school telling you about AI?" And her response really surprised me. She said, "Well, they tell us to absolutely ignore it, that it's absolute crap, and don't lean in." And I'm terrified because at VML, AI is every single day,
Everything. Yeah.
every single day. And so when she said that, I'm like, uh-oh, she's gonna graduate and have a real hard time finding work. I have some other thoughts on that, of course, that will peel back and uncover, because it kind of impacts, like, how are we dealing with AI at a corporate level, at a corporate scale of CX and creativity and experience design, because it does
Yeah.
matter. I was really shocked to hear that. And so she's really kind of going through as a purist and a traditionalist. And I think that's going to be a rare skill, believe it or not. Those
Yeah.
that can truly execute and have the craft of doing it by hand will become special, not common.
Oh, totally agreed. We actually see the same progression with any major technological advancement. So, for instance, I do woodworking. I build furniture, but being able to do that by hand is not nearly as common today as it was, 100 years ago. So I think that we see some of these patterns, and it's really interesting to me when you get the people who try to resist the change. And we've used the example before of trying to resist the wave in the ocean. You're much better to be the surfer.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so true. And going back to tools and how AI is just a tool like Photoshop, I do think about, again, my daughter, and she's doing so much by hand, and she's pulling out the acrylics and the watercolors and the oil paints, and she's learning all these traditional medium, which I love. But at the same time, she'll grab her tablet and work in Procreate, and that's actually my favorite work that she does, is when she's going in with her stylus and
Yeah.
doing these incredible illustrations in Procreate. Ironically, even though there's this kind of purist vibe of illustration, there's still the hand-eye coordination that comes to play. And that's something that AI, all the generative stuff that we're doing, all that's really doing is like what Photoshop did when it hit retail. It's giving the ability for anybody to create art. But as you guys know, AI is just a mimic. It just is vomiting back what it was trained with,
Yeah.
which are people who knew that hand-eye coordination and who knew that craft originally. So I think it is creating a suffrage in this industry of kind of commodity work. And eventually everything's going to be AI, and it's all going to look the same and it's going to add to the sea of sameness instead of help it. And that's where that value of the people that can truly craft is going to come back and be like, okay, there's something.
So that sameness, like that's something that I like to zero in on, because when we think about innovation tends to be the opposite of sameness. So are you seeing AI in the creative world as something that's going to help and boost innovation, or do you think it's something that's going to hold us back?
I hope it boosts it, and it'll boost it by being a utility that takes a lot of the systems work out of what we need to think about. The faster we can do things, or to use AI sort of as that partner, your creative partner, for example, to kind of bounce ideas off of. And again, my experience with that has been, it's okay doing that. Like sometimes I may ask it to critique something, and what it comes back with is sort of a commodity answer. It's sort of, yeah, I think that's so boilerplate what you just told me. I'm not getting anything unique or special. I'm not getting quite that push. But it can help if I've written something. It can help me make that prose smoother, more impactful. So it can help kind of fine tune or help me articulate the thoughts that are in my head in a way that communicates a little better or stronger. And I'm not a writer, but I'm using a writer example. But I haven't really seen that kind of critique on the visual side yet. Getting there, but it's not like I can design a web page in Figma, upload it, and say, critique this web page. It would, but it's going to come back with stuff that I probably already know, instead of, hey, here's some cool thing you should think about that is going to take this to the next level.
Right.
Visually.
Well, and it's interesting. So you're in the agency world. Preston and I both come from the agency world. I'm guessing AI isn't really an option anymore. From what we talked about before, like AI is always something the clients are asking for. Like, how are you using AI? So given what you're saying here, do they even really know what they're asking for at that point?
No. I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Look, here's the reality. The economy is in its own kind of weird turmoil at the moment. Every large organization is thinking right now about every single thing that we need to do as a marketing organization has to drive to the bottom line. Every single thing we do has to create tangible business value.
Right.
There's no such thing as creating arbitrary creative anymore. Creative that's just cool for cool's sake. The bigger the company, the more they understand and the more they value not doing that. And so they're looking to AI as, okay, how are we going to increase the bottom line? Well, we need to do things faster. We need to do it more efficiently at the same time of doing it faster. The quality has to be better. That's probably the biggest thing that we're hearing. Okay, so if we do that, then we're really asking for faster systematic design. So that's where AI can help. It can really help us kind of think about flows or think about journeys, help us understand, persona agents that we train and feed. How might somebody react to this approach? And we have seen success where it can recommend that, well, that's a good approach, but you might try this instead. And it gives you those, like I said, it's that creative partner that you can bounce ideas off of.
Right.
And it does help speed up that kind of systematic flow based piece of what we do for a living. But the actual creative and the execution, it's not there yet. Will it get there? Yeah, it gets smarter and smarter every day. Hopefully not too soon, but the value of us understanding humanity is the key that AI doesn't get yet. And even when it does start to get it, it's only going to get it in a way that we've trained it, and it's still going to be assumptive. But man,
which is terrifying in its own right.
it is terrifying. It is terrifying.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the decisions that we make are, we're doing a project right now for Ford, and I just love it. And it's really thinking about the value of the CX work that we're doing. And again, always trying to map that back to the tangible value that we bring to that organization. And it's actually very easy to do. CX is all about retention and nurturing these long-term relationships. And what I love about that is you have any brand, whether it's Ford, Intel, United Rentals, you name it, they have a brand promise. They got into business because they believe in something that differentiates them from other people in that same category that they share. Because really there's nothing new. I think AI and this efficiency push starts to lose that magic that is the brand promise and how we execute that brand promise in a digital experience. In other words, people are like, well, websites are easy. You know, there's a million templates, and create a design system with components and, you know, just bang that content out really fast. And why is a website costing, you know, $500,000, $1 million? Well, truth is, it doesn't have to if you just want a basic commodity website that looks like every single other website. And then what have you created? You've created an archive of pages. You've created an index. That's good if you're the Library of Congress. But if you're trying to create a marketing website that is that first connection of, I've seen your advertising, I'm interested, you sound like you walk the walk, or you talk the talk, let's see if you walk the walk. They're going to go to .com, for example. And that .com, based on the company, needs to either deliver inspiration and really consider the funnel. If I'm coming in upper funnel, how are we going to inspire people? If I'm coming in, you know, lower down in a shopping experience, we need to be more transactional and relevant and use personalization and all the cool things there. And there's a lot of AI baked under the hood, by the way. Adobe is fantastic on the cloud platform with a lot of the things that they're bringing to the game in that way. But the humanity is something that we cannot get from the AI. They're going to do interpretations of visuals. They're going to do interpretations of copy. But they're not going to think about a brand promise as you would experience it. And Preston, I see you've...
that just makes me wonder, like, often when we're going in, when JL and I go in, people want us to come and help them with their process. And whenever we see a cost-cutting initiative, it generally drives straight to the bottom. Like it runs people out of business. And we see that in a lot of industries. So having a productivity focus is much better. I wonder if the same principle applies here. And I wonder how can we better frame AI as freeing up humans to be more creative, instead of all this focus on AI is more efficient. It saves money.
If we're going to do that, though, we have to teach people how to be more creative and not just the creative people.
I love that. I love that a lot, because we think about how agents and the whole agentive side of AI is really how we engage with it every day at VML. It's in that model, and everybody's training agents. And of course, the quality with which you train the agent impacts the results that you get. But I was just in a conversation this morning where we were talking about, what does this mean for career pathing? You know, if in creative, we currently have designers, visual designers, then we have the UX behavioral skill set, and then we have story, the copywriters. And these three create that three-legged stool that any one of those legs, the stool falls if it's removed. But what AI is doing is kind of redefining how we structure, and we're thinking more of fluid creatives. You know, one creative now, through this agentive approach and through tools like Figma at Config just this week announced some amazing product enhancements where they're bringing AI in to do so much more for you. And again, we're like, okay, is this a threat to us? And the answer is no, we don't think so. Again, going back to Photoshop when it was out there, was it a threat to creativity? No, it was a tool. And it was a tool that everybody mastered. And that therein lies the key. So we think about traditional hierarchies. You know, I'm a chief design guy, and there's people that report to me. That's great. They have people that report to them. That's going to start to level out to where, I'll just use a website as an example. I might be able to give an end-to-end website assignment to a much younger talent in the business, and they could see it through to the end.
Right.
So what's happening is now, instead of people managing people, it's going to be people managing agents. And that suite of agents and how the agents are working together, and therein lies the skill, and that's what's going to separate people of who's really good at managing that virtual team and getting the good results out of it, because they, as the master of the agentive cluster, are what's bringing the humanity and the creativity, and we can't lose that direction. So God, everybody's going to become creative directors.
Yeah. All right. So we do have to start wrapping up, Dave. I'm curious.
No way. We got way too much to talk about.
I know. But this is the hard question, right? So if you had to place a bet, where will the next big, real, impactful innovation in customer experience come from?
It is definitely going to be agentive, doing things for you. And this is an interesting thing, because at the moment, consumers are rebelling against AI in their devices. Like, there's only like 8% adoption, and we're seeing a trend where a lot of people are either turning off AI on their iPhones. They don't want the help doing your daily tasks. But I think that's going to, when people start to figure that out, it's going to rebound. And I think instead of creating, say, websites that are destinations, and on those destinations, people have to content forage their way through the navigation until they find the things they want, it's going to be, I tell the agent what I want. The agent will go out and cast the net and bring back to me the things that are relevant. And the connected ecosystem of, I've got my Apple Watch, I've got my phone, it knows where I am. All of these, the glasses, all of these things, as they become more and more adopted, are going to be where we go. So even at VML, we have to start thinking about, when do we start to break free of the screen and start thinking about spatial design way more. And that's hard, because our clients they're still thinking screens and tangible business value, which is right. But there's got to be an evolution step change at some point.
There's an inflection point coming.
Yeah.
Awesome, David. So first, you're right. We could talk about this. We could geek out about this for another, hour or two, easy. Unfortunately, we do kind of have to end things here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I am curious, if people want to connect with you, where's the best place to connect?
LinkedIn. Just find me there, Dave Altis. Am I Dave or David? I think you looked at me.
You're David on LinkedIn.
I should be David Altis. Yeah. LinkedIn is great. Or you can even connect with me directly on Gmail, dave.altis@gmail. And that's Dave, not David.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the time. And for everyone else who's listened all the way to the end, thank you as well for the time. I'd be curious in the comments, how has agentic AI, or AI in general, generative, agentic, otherwise, affected your job, and how creative you can be in your job? I'd be curious to hear your answers. That said, while you're giving that feedback, maybe leave a rating as well. And then if you know anyone else who could benefit from Dave's perspective, share this episode with them, introduce them to Dave. I think it would go a long way. So again, David, thank you so much. We'll talk again, I'm sure. For everyone else, we'll see you next time on Breakthrough Innovation.
Thanks.